Okay, I want to thank everyone for coming this evening. We are calling to order this meeting of the Housing Committee of Brooklyn Community Board 9. So for the record, my name is Fred Baptiste. I'm serving as the pro tem chair for this evening, but I do have an announcement to make as well with regards to that leadership change that is forthcoming in a moment. Just for the record as well, if we could just give introductions around the table, so we can capture for the record for attendance.
Yep, Jolie Cobb.
Mina Lagute.
Felice Robinson.
Okay, thank you very much. All right. Okay, so in terms of committee updates, I think the first most important announcement to make is that, first of all, I wanted to thank for all the members who came last month. That was the first time, and it was very important that we were able to get that. There was a lot of excitement and energy around that, so I'm happy. The next step was to solidify the leadership aspect of that. So it is my pleasure to announce that we have appointed two co-chairs for the Housing Committee. So we have Ms. Mina Lagute, who's going to serve as co-chair. We have Ms. Jolie Cobb. So they're going to be working as co-chairs for the rest of this year.
Hello.
Hey.
Come in. Come sit.
Okay. And noting for the record, we have Ms. Ronisha Labarry has joined as well, so she's here as well for attendance.
Yay.
Right.
Yay.
You came in just in time, so I was just announcing that we have Mina and Jolie are going to be serving as co-chairs for the rest of the year. So they're going to be shepherding the rest of this. So there were a lot of good conversations that we had, so I think we have that, and we'll have an opportunity to coordinate after that, see what else we need to do. As I say that, I want to put it out there right now. You have my full support, whatever I can do. I also want to make sure that we note that you also have the second vice chair who is here as well. So you have the support of the executive committee, the district office, and we have your backs. Thank you for stepping up and taking on this leadership role. All right. Okay. I'm going to take a point of privilege for a second. As a committee update, wasn't on the agenda, but I do want to note that the FEIS, which is the final environmental impact statement for Kingsborough, the Vital Brooklyn project, was released. So as part of that, from the housing perspective, they have approved, the plan that has been approved as part of the final EIS is for about 1,000 units. So what this is going to do is, and they've broken it down in terms of, there are a number of units for supportive housing, which will include for services for senior citizens, mental health. I'm not sure if formerly incarcerated is there.
I think so.
I believe so.
I've reviewed it in an email somewhere.
Okay, good. Environmental, I know that they are also part of the plan was, there is a homeless shelter that is there. Part of what they're doing is, they're gonna knock that one down, but they're gonna put down a state-of-the-art facility that is there as well as some low and moderate income affordable housing options as well. So people will have an opportunity to buy.
Are these like separate entities within this larger development? Do you know, or are these like, is this one comprehensive building with all of this mixed use?
It's a number of buildings.
Okay,
It's a number of buildings.
okay.
So I believe they might have it split up between the different buildings that they're doing.
Are you
Right,
familiar with Gateway Center, like the mall?
yeah.
It might be like that development behind the mall. All those different
But
buildings and then housing.
just like one under one, essentially one company, and then it's just like a bunch of different.
But it's the state, not a.
It's, so this is a state project? I don't know much about.
Well, here's the thing, the
this is-
building is state, but what they're doing is they are actually going to turn over the property to the developer, and then the developer is going to have a number of entities who are partners in there as well.
And
So I believe Breaking Ground is like one of the developer partners, so they're gonna be helping with some of the supportive services. And it's in the document, I don't wanna misspeak, but it's
I have to read through it.
yeah. Then they're also gonna have a number of city and state agencies that are also gonna be supporting as well, providing funding and or assistance with that. So,
So is this a private equity? Is this a mix of funding? Like, is this all state funding? No, it's gonna be a mix. 'Cause
It's a
you
mix,
develop
yeah,
it.
it's gonna be a mix. There's gonna be some state funding, but I think they're gonna be relying on some city agencies as well to provide either funding and or assistance.
So city agencies mostly for like supportive.
Right.
Supportive services rather than like actual building,
Right,
an actual building and
exactly,
construction.
more for the service.
So that is gonna be like, state is gonna be more so land, actual building.
Correct,
Cities more so services that are integrated into this building.
right,
And then private is essentially the overarching.
right. The overarching one, it'll be the landlords, it'll be the landlords for the property.
And they're doing, okay, yeah, I just need to read through this. This is my first time seeing it, so.
Right.
That would be awesome.
No, absolutely, so we'll make sure you get a copy of that.
Unless I
as
could take this home.
well. You can, if you would like to take that, you can. And we will make sure we send electronic copies, so everyone
Okay.
will get that as well.
Electronic is fine.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll make sure we send
I'll
it.
do paper copies, but if no one's taking this and it's printed, like, I'll take it right on it.
Okay, no, please, please. So, but just also just to kind of give a little bit more background with that as well. So what they did was, Economic Development Corporation, EDC, whatever the state entity is, they've approved this FEIS. I believe they actually have a final approval they have to do to adopt it. And then it does, what I think it does is it creates a project plan, and that allows us for the disposition of the property and the transition over to the developers, for them to do what they need to. But there are some other things that need to be done as well. So I think one of the things, I think there's a city approval that might have to have in terms of the city might have, there's a deed question that has to be resolved. They're probably talking about that next door over at the land use meeting. And there are a couple of other items as well. It's in there, and I apologize again in terms of, I outlined some of it, but it'll be there. One of the things we're trying to do is, we made the request to Economic Development, to the corporation to come, to either speak to housing or to land use. They weren't able to come now, but we are trying to organize that because we know that there's still a number of outstanding questions. So when we're able to get that commitment for them to come, absolutely would like for housing to go and ask any questions as well in terms of if there's anything relevant we need to know, or make any recommendations. Part of the recommendation I know that came out from that as well is that there's supposed to be a community advisory board that is formed once this is stood up. I know that there have been a number of concerns that have been expressed. So the idea being, the board will have a seat on that advisory board, and we are going to be able to directly let them know what's going on, what the issues are. The state talks about all the impacts that are gonna happen. I believe this is a project that's gonna be a number of years. So I believe, I don't think you're gonna see any housing until 29, and I think it's a several-year project where everything, it's not fully built out until 2034, if I remember correctly.
That's like Gateway, like phase 1, phase 2.
Exactly. So there's gonna be a number of years that this is gonna be going out. But as we do that as well, we wanna make sure that we're addressing all the issues and keeping an eye on things in terms of how housing is going in the district.
Even with the Gateway development, you could see they're also struggling for parking, because their streets, they're pretty small, but where they built houses, the cars are end to end, and people are on the hydrants, so you can already tell if they're tight for parking and they have more room, and they do that over here.
One of the glaring numbers that I saw in the project is that they talked about 1,000 units. I think I only saw 46 parking units.
Oh my God.
No.
Yeah, it
no,
literally says it
I saw
right.
46
No,
parking
they can't
units.
do that.
Now,
Can't
with
do
that being said, I think there are 46 parking units that are designated. There's supposed to be like some driveways, some like driveways on the property, and they have angled parking, so there may be some other number of that. But that's something we definitely need to flag right off the bat.
They don't
Right
have
off the bat.
parking.
Yes, people are fighting out here.
Well, here's the thing. I think what they tried to do, what they're trying to do here is,
This is more like a supportive development. It's
and
not
that's
really-
what I think they're looking at. They're saying, well, listen, most of the people who live here probably would not be able to afford cars either as well. But still, I think at 46 spots, I think they're assuming a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Whether or
That's
not
what-
they can afford them, okay, yes. Affording it is a problem, but what are they gonna do to make the trains?
How are they gonna get to trains
How are
and
they gonna get to the
transit?
trains and transit, and if you get to the trains and transit, just how crowded they are. I mean, yes, COVID happened and the trains were not, but the other day, I would live 4 stops away from 5 stops away from Flatbush, and you're standing wall to, like, shoulder to shoulder to people, so how are you gonna, okay.
No, I mean, just from the quick read I had on it, there's a number of things that will make you raise an eyebrow in terms of some of the assumptions they had. Like similarly, they were talking about, there's no impacts to schools, so they only anticipate like maybe 150 kids or something like that.
No, that's wrong.
Oh, really?
I
Exactly.
don't even know where the nearest school is in that area.
Oh, I
That's a
couldn't,
good question, I couldn't tell you.
I couldn't tell you off the bat.
No, isn't that, what about, right over there?
Empire and,
Not Empire, over on,
not
oh my God.
Empire,
Yeah, Winthrop,
Behind the hospital,
not behind the hospital, I'm thinking
middle school or high school?
Wingate, that's not too far.
Middle school or high school?
Is that middle school or high school?
It's high school.
It's high school?
Yeah.
So where are the middle school kids going?
That's a good question. I don't know all the academic levels, and
And,
elementary
you know,
and
the
primary.
city was building, schools at one point, so I don't know where they stopped.
You know, and it's funny, cause just going into Saturday's conversation, Education Town Hall, there are some interesting dynamics that are happening in the district in terms of where the numbers are. So we have a lot of population movement that's happening. So in terms of capacity, there's capacity in the district. But I'm still kind of curious as to how they came up with this number of, oh yeah, there's only like 50 kids in the whole thing. So,
Right, that's no.
Is it that the housing will not be good enough for families? It's just one family?
It's a,
One-
well, here's the thing.
One bedroom?
Because, yeah, that's the thing, I think because of the kinds of units that they're talking about, I think they're talking about, some of the units are for young adults, like they just recently came out of the foster system, or, you know, so to help them with the transition, so they have that. I don't think that, you know, it sounds like there's a lot of smaller units that are here, 1 and 2 bedroom, I don't even know, I'm 2 bedroom.
So families still have nowhere to go? Because
Yeah.
families can't afford anything here.
Yeah.
Right, I think what they were trying to do is trying to get some of the other, needs, and especially be able to put supportive services around there. Again, I
I
still
think
have
it's
questions.
very interesting to me. I think the biggest flag about this project is that this is essentially a retake on a NYCHA project, a NYCHA development. As
Everyone
much as
sees
you
that.
want, because that's what it is. This
Everyone
is,
sees that.
look at all these units, supportive in general, low income senior housing. There's nothing that's in this project that says we're looking to mix use and we're looking to like do. And I think this is also why some of these assumptions that it's gonna be an insulated community. They're not expecting people to leave. I think that's kind of the mindset, is like, and if people are leaving, it's within a limited capacity, right? We're not expecting people to be on trains, we're not expecting people to have cars, we're not expecting people to partake in these kind of activities.
yes.
This is why it's integrated into the development, right? Because people don't need to leave, we don't want them to leave, which is,
Cause they don't want you to do better.
Well, this is the, and this is the thing, part of the conversation, in terms of depending on what the needs are, who they're servicing, sometimes, rather than having them be transient,
yeah,
you can build roots.
yeah,
You can have roots, you can be here,
yeah.
and you'll have whatever support, services you need for whatever amount of time, so there's not a time frame on those things.
Yeah.
But this is the reason why I think we need to ask questions, and that's the reason why it's important that the board stays very involved whenever they do this advisory board thing, because we need to make sure that, one, people, whatever they were promised, people are getting. But two, making sure that at the same time, people who are in the development get what they need, but also that the promises are kept to the community at large as well.
I have a question.
Yes.
So would this be considered their promise for the next 10 years of what they're building?
I believe so, but before I promise for
Yeah.
for them, the goal is to try and get them here so they can answer the question for you.
Okay, well, no, I just wanna know what is the standard that we're holding them to in the future, like what is
Yeah.
our guide?
No, I believe that this is, well, this is the environmental impact statement, so it tells you in terms of what their project is and what the effects are gonna be in the neighborhood.
Mhm.
Some of the languages or the assumptions are interesting, but in terms of that charter, in terms of what they're going to promise, I think that is something we should ask for as a board, in terms of, like, for example, I know one of the things they guaranteed, they said, no, they're gonna have security there. So
Okay,
they will always have security there, that'll be a part of the development, where it's like, they'll make sure, so you don't have,
security or like NYPD NYCHA,
from what I understand, security for the development,
like Allied Universal?
something like that, I guess.
I don't know the difference between NYCHA and what the,
Well, in other words, it's not, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, it's essentially NYPD has three different departments. They have patrolling, they have transit, and they have public housing.
Mhm.
So they essentially have NYPD that are stationed at public
so
housing.
the cars that just sit there and do nothing,
Yeah, that's them.
they don't do
Yeah,
anything.
I understand it's security, contracted security that'll be there.
So it should be,
I don't know how effective NYPD car is, that just that they were flashing like this.
Yeah, I mean, my understanding is not NYPD responsible for security, but we should ask the question, who's responsible for security and what exactly you're doing? So I think one of the concerns that came up in one of the public meetings we had was that they were saying, so, there's a large open space. So when the lights go out, who's watching this large open space and making sure nothing untoward is happening in there?
right,
So one of the things they did say was, no, we have security, they will be patrolling, they'll be doing a number of things, they're gonna be providing security for the building and the premises as well.
are they able to, so these are questions, are they able to issue arrests? Are they calling and contacting NYPD? Like, what is that relationship, so that, safety? All of these questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, just hearing
Are we're gonna have cameras throughout?
They better.
Cameras, I understood.
It's 2025.
Cameras, I understood. So there's gonna be a security scheme that they're gonna set up for that.
Okay,
So they'll have security cameras, they'll have people who patrol, they'll have certain things. I guess, we can always ask the question, it's fair game to say, okay, well, so what's the relationship gonna be with NYPD? So
Yes.
you see something, you radio in, NYPD assists with that. Or at least if that's the expectation, we can set that up. And again, as a board, I think that, we should definitely stay active as part of that advisory board
Yeah.
and make sure that what has been promised is being delivered.
I think it's really important that the quality of life doesn't go further down for the people that own homes in the
Absolutely.
area.
1,000%.
oh my God, yes.
1,000%.
I think that's the biggest concern.
Yeah, no, I mean, listen, there's gonna be some, I think that they acknowledge in the FEIS that there's going to be impacts during construction. Our big thing is going to make sure, I think that just happens when you have construction, but we need to make sure that after it's all said and done, it is something that, as if you're a neighbor who bought your house 20 years ago, you're not regretting this decision all of a sudden.
Right.
Because now you just have all these extra problems that come with this.
It's gonna be interesting.
And in their building, it won't disrupt the foundation of the other homes as well, right?
That is, I think because it's on the campus, I think, it's not like they're building it next to anybody
Okay,
who's already there.
okay,
So they're gonna be like within a square, whatever areas.
Radius.
Yeah.
okay.
But absolutely, again, those are the concerns we wanna hear. Part of what I think they put in the FEIS is like some of the stuff they're gonna do to mitigate. I understand that there might be some soil things, that, there's gonna be some environmental stuff they gotta remediate. Because they used to have like a truck depot, they used to have whatever else and everything like that, so. They're gonna be putting big tents, they're gonna be cleaning stuff, they're gonna be removing soil, they gotta dispose of the soil, so it's gonna be a whole plan that's put around that. So those are the conversations, but again, and again, I apologize that, this is getting out to the committee members late, but this is absolutely a conversation and questions we want to ask, so we have let, Empire State Development Corporation know that they need to come here. They need to come here, they need to, be very transparent with us in terms of what are they doing, what are they not doing, where some of these assumptions came from, because even just a quick read I did, there were a couple of things that I raised my eyebrow. And I believe they have a vote that comes up not this month, maybe perhaps next month. So if there are decision points or other places or people we need to address, I want that information up front, so that way, if the committee, either housing or land use or any other committee has a concern, we can raise those things before it starts going, and especially we can engage, the elected officials as well.
So that was the for them to speak to the whole community or?
Yeah, yeah. Originally, I was trying to get them faster. I was gonna say, listen, if they can come to at least either this committee or to land use, I would've said, okay, great. They couldn't commit to that, so it's like, all right, fine, no problem. We'll try and get them for another day, but we'll make it a larger function where it's like, board-wide, town hall style, so people can come and ask questions.
Put their feet to the fire.
More than feet.
I'll be next.
Okay. All right, so are there any other questions with regards to that?
Oh, there's a lot, but I don't know if we're gonna answer them now.
Well, as long as you have the questions and.
It's,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and I apologize up front, it's like, I know
It's okay.
there's gonna be a ton of questions, I probably just don't have the answers, I wouldn't be
No,
quick
I
to give them
know.
to you. But
I know.
we'll try and get the people in front of the committee who can answer those questions, or who should be able to answer those questions.
Well, I mean, if they were doing a community advisory board and they're not showing up to board meetings to discuss, then we're already at a problem, right?
Right, well, only because they haven't gotten to that point of establishing it, but that's one of the parameters of the project.
Well, I mean, even as you go about building and development, this is a large undertaking, 1,081 units
Mhm.
of supportive housing. This is people that are coming are not necessarily supporting themselves, right?
Right.
So they should be wanting to kind of like be part of it, so. Have you guys already made the request to like meet or no?
Yes, no, we put that.
Oh, and they just haven't responded or they're just denying it?
Between the timing of when they released this, we told them right off the bat,
Yeah.
I think it was like the very beginning of April.
Okay.
So we told them, no, listen, we have a committee meeting coming up, come on in. They said, well, they weren't gonna be able to get the people here to come for this one, so.
Trying to defer May,
Yeah, no, they need to be here before, yeah,
yeah, because it's May and June,
exactly.
and they start in October, right?
Listen, there might be some other actions that happen, well, that's the thing, I don't remember when they said they're breaking ground, but there's a couple steps in here as well. And there's a couple of approvals that need to happen, so there might be some open questions that we should get answered.
Okay. And what do you think those questions are?
I know they're discussing it over there, there's a question about the deeds.
Okay.
Because, it has been mentioned a couple of times where this is land provided to the state it was provided to the state for the purpose of the hospital, for Kingsborough Psychiatric. Because of the property change or because of the usage change, there is a question of the deed where the city will have to say, yeah, it's okay possibly.
Wait,
So,
so sorry, so this was government-owned land, this was public domain.
it's
essentially.
public owned.
And we're going to hand these rights over to the developer once they start building, instead of keeping it in the public domain?
Well, the idea is that it's in the public domain because it's for public stuff,
use.
public use, right, for the house.
So, I mean, there is such things as allowing it to stay in public proprietorship so that affordable housing and some of these other infrastructures are maintained. Because we know once developers get involved in private equity,
Right,
we know longevity of affordable housing, tax credits only last 15 or so years.
right.
So like, is this a project that starts off as affordable and then over time has to supplement itself by becoming private owned and renovating to market rate?
The understanding is the uses that are designated here are the uses they gotta continue. So in other
Okay.
words, if it's supportive housing, they can't say, oh, by the way, it's condos, in 20 years.
Well, that's only the supportive housing, it's general housing mixed in there. There's senior housing, there's low income housing.
No, that's what I'm saying, whatever components are approved here are supposed to be maintained there,
Okay,
to my understanding.
do we know
But
how long?
I don't,
No.
I don't.
So what happened to the patients on the psychiatric?
It has been a psychiatric ward in a while, for the most part, and that's part of the reason why they looked at that. You know, let me not speak out of school, I'm not sure. They hadn't been using it, they hadn't been using it as a psychiatric center, from what I understand.
For a long time.
Yeah, for a long time, so it's one of those things they were saying was underused. The one thing that was there was the homeless shelter. The homeless shelter was there, and that's been problematic for a while. So they were saying part of the project is redevelop that whole tract, get rid of all the older buildings, and I think they talk about the plan to knock down like none of the older buildings there. Rebuild those shelters, but those other those other housing units that they designated.
So the shelter that are there now, where do those people go? Into other shelters? Or in our neighborhood, or?
They would probably be moved out until the facilities are rebuilt, yes.
That's guaranteeing that they'll be able to return, found, located.
I hope that they're not homeless until.
I'm just asking, cause.
I got a brand new shelter waiting, I'm waiting for it.
I know, I
Stop, Brad.
noticed a lot
Oh.
more homeless in the neighborhood and a lot of.
I do.
Even on the
know.
trains.
On the trains, in the
trains.
train station,
Yeah.
people plugging their phones
And-
in and just sitting there.
Yeah, and
Waiting
that's
for their
part of the
phones to
reason why,
charge.
and that's part of the reason why I think that we need to have some level of compassion with that because
I don't-
we
I don't-
see them out.
It's not that I don't have a level of compassion, but I just wanna know like where are they going? Like,
Right.
what is the plan for them?
No, absolutely.
You know, what
Absolutely.
is the plan for these people? It's like you have them roaming the streets, and not to say that some people, I'm sure that there might be 1 out of 5 person who's like, you know what, this is fine for me. But
Right.
those other 4 people are roaming the streets and not getting the help that they need. So
Absolutely.
at what, I mean, I know it's a state problem, it's a city problem, but at what point do we say, okay, not in our community, they have to have a home?
Well, that's part of what this project does. It says, no, in our community, they have a place. So there is a place and there's services that are given to them depending on what it is that they need, assistance with. So, yeah, and again, but it speaks to that, and separately, that's part of what we're working on as a committee in terms of what are the needs in the district. So, supportive housing is something we should look at in terms of how do we make sure people have, are in places where they're supported and, if they have an episode or anything or any of the assistance, they can get it readily and, not be homeless on the street.
Right.
Is there anything in this that like prioritizes people in CV9, like a percentage?
That's what I was wondering, cause I was wondering, sometimes when they build supportive housing, which neighborhood did you pull them from?
Yeah.
Mhm.
But the thing is, if they're homeless, are you really pulling them from a home, from a neighborhood?
Well, the reason why I say that is because some neighborhoods have higher populations than others, and it's visible, it's clearly visible. When you're in certain regions, you're like, okay, there's a lot here, there's not a lot here. So are you taking them from that area and bring them over here as opposed to building where you have the higher population? So yes, we know they're homeless, but they spend most of their time
In a certain neighborhood?
Yeah.
Is it because they used to live in this neighborhood, or it's just pretty here? I mean, I don't
I don't
think
know,
it's
but
just pretty here.
it's easy when you're like going about your day that you see the same faces
Mhm.
over and over. You're like, okay, I've seen you 5 months now, I've seen
No,
you
yeah.
2 years now.
Yeah,
So you get used to the faces that you see on a constant basis. And you'll notice when you're like, okay, well, these other 10, you weren't here,
Yeah,
where did you come from?
yeah, there are some that I know by face, and every morning we say good morning to each other and keep going.
And then when you see more, you're just like, whoa, these are new.
Yeah, I've noticed a few new ones.
Yeah,
The new ones are very aggressive when they're walking up down the street as opposed to the old ones, and I don't know how that dynamic is gonna work between people who've been here and the people who are just getting here. Like the woman who stays on the corner of Stern and Empire, like how, I know it's not her home, but how is she being impacted by the other homeless people that are coming in the neighborhood?
Oh, I see you.
You know, like,
It's like
she's been there
adding
since
more
before COVID, so,
Yeah.
at the same spot. From what I hear, she has a family, but,
And
you know,
there's some, yeah.
there
I
are
mean,
issues, you know.
Yeah,
but-
and that's the thing, there are some dynamics that happen even around there where it's
Mhm.
like, I think just even in other meetings I've been to, it's like, it just kinda touches things, like, for example, like you see there are people who are there, that's their corner.
Yes,
And it's their corner because they don't wanna go anywhere else. It's
Mhm.
like, I've got it set up, I know how I'm doing this, and
Mhm.
they know I'll get breakfast over here in the morning.
Right.
And my stuff is here and whatever it is, and they learn how to survive here, and there've been attempts, from what I'm saying, sometimes there's attempts, we can get you someplace, and they're like, no, I'm good.
yeah.
Yeah.
But then to the point where it's like, then sometimes you see other people, and you're like, okay, well, what's the dynamic that's working?
Yeah.
My question is this rent stabilized? What kind of,
Probably not.
yeah, what are we dealing with? I mean, I don't know, market rate, you know, if they can, you know, increase the rent, at whatever cost, I don't know, a percentage, you know.
I mean,
These are factors of why people are getting displaced, okay, and it's happening in my building, you know, as we speak.
Right.
And, you know, I failed to ask, what did they sign it under? You know, obviously there wasn't rent control, and, you know, 1 year is 100, the next year is 200, you know, I'm like, I don't understand how that goes. So, they decided to move out. Well, thank God I had a place to go, but this is what's happening. So I don't understand, what are we dealing with here?
I don't know enough to tell you a good answer.
Right, and that's a factor right there.
Yeah, but these are all the questions, and and I would even say that, if we can start compiling the questions, so that way when they get here, it's like, it'll probably help you go faster, even if we can compile that. And I'll do that, so once we get the date firm, we'll send something around, so it's like, if you have questions like these, let's get those together, so that way they can come prepared, and I don't wanna hear, well, we don't know, we don't have the answer, we'll get back to you.
Yeah.
We'll give them the answers the questions up front.
But my question about these is that they're already about to start excavating in October. They're about to start demolition, they're about to start all of these processes. What are our questions gonna do now if they already have the project?
It depends on what the questions are. Some of them, if it's programmatic, I mean, I don't think we're changing the floor plans at this point.
No,
That's
obviously.
probably not happening.
No.
But if there are questions around that in terms of, yeah, I mean, I don't know, but there are other questions around that, if it's programmatically, who you doing, who's supporting what, or we want answers about what is the security scheme, how's that being handled, what's the idea in terms of the community engagement piece, how you handling that, community complaints, how you handling that, making sure the neighbors are good, how you mitigating everything around that, what do the plans look like for transit around, while the construction's happening for the next 7 to 8 years, something like that. Those are questions that should be able to answer.
And we should have more parking spaces.
Yeah,
Yeah,
What did
sanitation.
you just say? How are you dealing with that?
Sanitation is a big
Actually,
question.
once they start digging, there will be a lot of rats.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
All of it.
That's what I'm.
That are gonna flee to the
Everyone.
And that
Neighboring
is
areas.
absolutely part of it. And the state and the developer should be held accountable for that, absolutely. So those are open questions and they should be answered upfront.
Okay.
We should get commitments upfront in terms of before you put a shovel in the ground,
You gotta put some traps in this ground too.
everything. And here's the thing, as they do that too, so it's one holding the developer, but two, it's also holding the city to account for this stuff too. Because you know what, the city, for all the complaints about, whoever's doing whatever else, I know we've had a number of residents who complain about homeless people doing things in the backyards and stuff like that. The city always is responsible for that. So NYPD needs to be doing patrols, or they need to work with whatever agencies they need to. transportation, make sure that the conversation's happening with MTA in terms of whatever they need to do to support it, cause it's gonna be a bunch of stuff. They've already, I think, just some of the numbers I looked at, they're gonna be losing parking spaces for construction. It's gonna be a nightmare around there, because there's a bunch of the parking spots you're gonna lose for an extended period of time. There's traffic lights that they're gonna be changing, that they said, you know, they have to adjust that. You're gonna see traffic lanes moving over, you're gonna see a whole bunch of stuff. So it's not gonna be painless, I'll say that. That much I think we'll know upfront, it's not gonna be painless.
Okay, so the project that they submitted for ULIP to review, do we still have access to that? The, whatever, that has like the actual distribution of income and money and all of those other small.
We should still have that.
We should.
We should still have that, or if we need to get it, we can get that.
Is that something we can send out along with this as well in the email?
Mhm. So, okay. All right, okay, so that's for item number 2, the committee updates. Item number 3, and I was just saying before, so,
We could
Yeah.
share it.
yeah, and I was just saying, it's like, most of this is just gonna be just updates, just to get everybody up to speed, and then after that is the chairs, and the committee will figure out what the next steps are gonna be for next month and going forward. Okay? All right, approval of minutes will happen next month. Tax lien sale, so at the board meeting, we were able to have Department of Finance come up, so I thought that was good, and it was enlightening for me, because I think there's just a number of services. Now, the big thing is gonna be making a hardcore press for the next month and a half, to make sure that people know what's going on and what resources they have. The one concern I have is, I just want to make sure that in trying to help people, one, I always believe in preserving dignity, so it's like, I know that people, you know, their addresses are out there, which is already, that's already something, where it's like, yeah, my home is on a list.
Yeah.
I wanna be very careful about the way we get word out to the best we can, if there are people who are more appropriate to do it. But I also wanna make sure that we are referring people to the appropriate places. The one thing that scares me, a lot is the whole idea of people getting taken advantage of, because they're already vulnerable, because you're worried about water bills and when you're losing your house. We don't wanna add DPEP to the whole thing too,
Yeah.
because there are people definitely watching, they've got the list, and they know how to knock on doors too, so maybe if it's a way we just develop some kind of a strategy where it's like, and I'm not even sure, maybe if it's a flyer, we can develop something where it's like, listen, if you haven't gotten the stuff, look for your envelopes, it'll have the information there. If you need help,
Yeah.
these are the trusted people to go to.
Yeah.
Somebody knocks on your door,
Done.
thank you very much, don't worry about it. But whatever we do in terms of the messaging, but we just wanna make sure that we're keeping people safe at the same time.
So can't we mail it, do it that way? That's to
I
me.
mean,
You-
it's
you-
expensive and
It's,
timely.
well, here's the thing, I don't know how many it is, it may not be cost prohibitive in the way, it's not like it's going to everybody in the district. It's a finite number.
Some said, like some that.
Could be a postcard,
Say it again?
postcard, a postcard from the community.
It could be, yeah, you can put up the number, let's see what that looks like.
She might be done. It's been a long day.
Understood.
It's been a long day.
The thing that confused me is we keep saying they're gonna lose their homes, but at the meeting, the representative said that it's just a lien, so when they go to sell their homes.
Well, that's the thing, well, it's a lien, so they sell the right to the lien, but to enforce the lien, they can make you sell your house.
You have it?
I have like a little bit, I think I've got, let's see. Oh, not 9%.
Okay, you can take this.
So,
You
yeah,
got more?
I had it plugged all day.
so that's always one of the questions in terms of, it's not so much that, yeah, you don't lose your house because of a lien, you lose your house when they sell the lien and the person who has the lien wants to collect.
I think.
Here you go.
It is, and that's what and here's the thing, think about losing your house because of a $5,000 water bill. So you bought the house, paid for it, but because of a $5,000 water bill, all of a sudden now somebody owns the title to your house.
Right. So,
Okay, I just didn't understand it part. Thank you. I left the mouse, I'm sorry.
no, it's fine.
But yeah, so I'm gonna
That
talk,
sounds good.
so we're gonna talk to the office, we'll figure out what else we can do. If there's any suggestions or recommendations, or even if you just have connections of places that may be good places to go to do outreach, let us know. So, I've always said, it's like, listen, if you need us to go to a synagogue, you need us to go to a church, or you need us to go to a certain place just to, to put flyers or to make announcements or whatever else, let us know so we can try and get in those spaces. And again, sometimes if they trust a neighbor, maybe there's a trusted neighbor that does it, I just wanna be very careful about how we do that and get it. Because I've always, believed that I don't wanna tell them, yeah, somebody's coming and the wrong person comes.
Right.
And two, I always believe in preserving dignity in this one too.
Yes.
I missed these emails, I didn't answer this, so now I might potentially lose my home. People feel the way about things.
Yeah, for sure.
So to the best we can. All right, item 6, and I'm really happy to talk about this one. I just wanted to say, first of all, thank you so much, Chair Cobb, for all the work that you did in terms of making the connection with the Fortune Society. So I had an opportunity to go there. It was a fantastic conversation. I think he provided a lot of background in terms of what that process looks like in terms of affordable housing. He told us about when it works and when it's successful. He told us sometimes what the barriers are to that as well as just sharing information about, it's okay for us to ask for things.
Right.
What do we want and everything else?
Mm-hmm.
And again, I really appreciated the fact that he's saying, listen, sometimes the affordable housing is going to populations who just really need it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's not a handout and it's not a danger and it's not, something where it's, oh my goodness, nobody's going down. It's like, these are people who need homes just like everybody else.
Yeah.
And they're supported, and when they're supported, they're just as, they're valuable members of the community just like everybody else.
Productive, but I think, again, this goes into the relationship that they cultivate with the community, with the people that live there.
Right.
And I think that's part of the lens that I'm looking through at Vital, is that this is an undertaking for people that are in serious need. And people know when that need is not being addressed or being cared for. And these are the kind of conditions that create not productive, productivity,
Right.
but quite the opposite.
Right.
And so I think that's a pretty delicate, especially with how large of a development. I think there should be a little bit more of a relationship building on both ends, so that those goals can be met, and that as board members, that we can facilitate that the best that we can, considering that this is something that we do work within. Sorry, I'm having a hard time connecting to the Wi-Fi. And I'm trying to find a personal hotspot, but it's doing this bouncy.
Oh, it's going to mine.
Oh, is that why?
It's probably going
Am
to
I-
my chat one.
I think one of the interesting things that they brought up is, and I like the way he said it, listen, this is a conversation they have in advance. For all the private applications we always get, they're always promising something as well. So you know what, it should be that same kind of conversation.
Yeah.
It's not what you're promising, it's like, okay, well, what is the communication that you're doing with the board now? What is the communication you're gonna have with the board afterwards?
Yeah.
And how are we keeping a partnership together?
Yeah.
As opposed to, I'll throw in 5 apartments and,
Yeah.
give me that and I'll walk away and just make my money and
Right.
nobody ever cares about it.
Yeah. Like, oh, I got my tax cuts. Like, thanks, guys.
I've been real.
Right. Like, appreciate it.
Right.
Also to follow up on that, I did definitely say to Mr. Metch before he was leaving that we would love to take him up on the offer to come visit one of his sites. He did say it would typically be on Thursday and it is in the city, but obviously it depends on people's interest and ability. So that's something that's not immediate, doesn't have to happen now. Thank you so much. But something that could be worth a conversation. They do hold their community board meetings on site. And I think it would be pretty cool to see that kind of relationship between community and developer and how that exists in the space. I don't know how much of the tour we get to see of the actual project, but I think it would be awesome to kind of see the timeline. This is, at least with Castle One, it's been like 15 years. They've had 90% retention of their people. He's, saying it looks brand new. Well, let's see it, baby. Let's see how brand new it still looks. Which goes to say maintenance. They're keeping up with all of these things that create conditions for dignified people to feel dignified in their homes, which gives us insight and ideas of what to look for moving forward in projects that aren't meeting these standards. And I know that that's a smaller development, but these are, as we look at this is smaller buildings, so maybe we just kind of break it apart that way. But I would love to kind of take on that little road trip. If anybody's interested, we can collaborate moving forward and pick a day that works. Maybe instead of doing our meeting here, we tag team and go. But yeah, that's something I would love to add because he did extend that offer. It would be pretty cool. Because he's like, I want to keep having a conversation, so I think it would be nice to kind of keep that going and having us show up. He shows up. We have more questions to ask. We're having projects come. How can you help us analyze these things and just keep asking. At least that's something that I could see benefiting. worth it to just send out the postcards.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's funny, I was opposed to it, I was like, it's gonna be expensive, but I don't think it's that big.
Right, postcards are not,
It's not that big.
Not anymore, right?
right.
And the thing is, I don't think we're talking about huge numbers. These are not huge numbers.
Oh, I don't wanna download this on the computer.
Can you, is there any way to filter it by
And
the
doing
board?
it as a postcard, would it be from the community board?
You sure?
Would it
If
be
it's
like
legit,
some
go
official
It is.
kind of,
Deal.
presentation on the card, so that,
If it's doable, some of those details we'll have to figure out.
okay.
We'll have to figure out what's the exact messaging, what it is.
So is
Yeah, I
that
like the idea of a
already-
postcard because I just don't want, you know, if you send the problem is, if you send a letter, one of the issues is they probably haven't been looking at the letter.
Yeah, that's also true.
So, you know,
Why would I start looking at these
exactly.
now?
Postcard, oh, okay, I can read exactly what's on there.
Right.
And
I
maybe
haven't
a
looked at
picture
much.
of what the envelope looks like, to say, hey, go look for this envelope in your home if you have it.
Exactly.
And please open it.
Right.
Contact us if you have any, contact this number if you have any questions.
Right.
Because when we send this, how do they know that we're legitimate?
Right.
That's true.
Right.
Because a lot of people have never even heard of the community board,
That's also
Right.
very
which is
true.
really,
Which is true.
A hard part.
cause, yeah, people are like, what do you mean? Like, what do you do? When I'm trying to explain and I'm like, the borough president, you know, and they're like,
No.
no.
Your eyes glaze
Who
over.
is, yeah, like,
for
who is
sure.
the borough president of my borough? Some people don't know,
Yeah.
you know, so
Okay.
even if we send this postcard, it has to make them want to go like, oh, do I have one of these? Or,
Okay, so I think this is the list. If I'm reading this sheet correctly, they have it separated by board, and it's by 3-0. So you could 3-0. So 309 would be us because we're
Correct,
sitting
yeah.
at- Okay, so I just wanted.
Three will be the Brooklyn code and all that.
Right. Okay. 1250 minus 168. That's how many homes?
That's not bad.
That is why, yeah.
It's a lot, but not thousands.
No,
That's
thank
good.
Thank goodness for that.
and a postcard is what, 30 cents? I don't know anymore.
I don't know anymore.
I think it's doable. That's a number,
168. How many homes do we got on there?
yeah.
These homes are also multi-family
Family.
homes. So now you also have to get the right unit in the home
That's true.
to get the postcard.
Hmm.
Cause you send it to an address, but what if you sent it to the tenant and not the homeowner? The right person has to be able to get the postcard.
Yeah, from personal experience,
And you can't put it in one mailbox.
You're like, no.
no, my parents lost their house like that. Because all the mail saying that we were going to get evicted and all that went to the neighbors.
So you
Oh.
can't send 168, you have to send at least double or 3 times that for the
Yeah.
multi-family home.
Okay.
Oh, but still, even at three times, so we said 500. If we said 500, just
Resident ABC.
You
It's
just
a
need to
sign.
make sure the person in that house that needs to open it
Is
sees
getting
We
it.
can't guarantee that.
I know.
We-
You
I
just
think-
increase the chances.
Well, and that's the thing. Is as long as we can increase the chances, so you know, like I sent one to the house, and you know,
Yeah, and then it's like,
The
well,
chances
one.
aren't good. One out
Right.
of 5.
3 or 4. Who knows? Maybe you know, if there were 3 units, and one neighbor read it and just went and knocked on the door. Did you see this? You know.
Right.
If
Maybe
all
that's
3 of
Do
them
we
not-
have to move if you lose the house?
Oh,
Yeah.
God.
Stop.
I mean, that may make them want to share.
It could.
That's true.
You
It
know,
could very
That's true.
people, no one wants to move,
Yeah.
regardless if they own it or not.
Yeah.
Moving,
I'm
I
like,
They
I
don't
would
wanna pay
imagine if I
higher
had to
you
move.
what?
Right. So we're looking at the postcards mostly as a notice and then providing resources that would be, that they could contact if they needed, or if they wanted follow-up assistance.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you keep talking about the wording, so what's the wording that we're looking
Call
at?
311, I mean, that's one of the sources, isn't it?
Well, here's the thing. Let's do this. Let's have the district office team is usually pretty good with that. They can take a crack at it just to see what it looks like,
Okay.
and and I think we just want to figure out what's the best place to direct them as well.
Okay.
But that we can do offline. So I can always ask the district office to send the draft around. We can take a look at it, and then the committee can.
That's
see how
it.
they feel.
Okay.
My allergies.
I have
Tissue
tissue.
try.
I have tissue. I'm trying not to use tissue in here.
Why?
try some rosemary.
Girl, why? You
Either,
guys
you
got
know,
tissue in
capsules.
here.
Hmm?
You heard what I said?
Try rosemary in my food or
Or take capsules.
I have my capsule, it didn't start until this evening, so I'm trying to avoid taking it until tomorrow.
Rosemary?
No, the what is it, my allergy medicine.
Oh.
See, I'm more of a herbalist, so I'm just trying
Mhm.
to.
Local honey.
I had a spoonful of honey one day, I don't think it did
No, local
anything.
honey, like at
It was from-
Grand Army. Go
Well,
there,
mine was from New
something
York
that's
State.
local.
Oh, really?
Local.
Okay.
Because they're eating the plants that you're allergic to, or they're not eating
Was
the
Shasta
plants.
not local enough?
Never.
Said no.
So let's do this, 'cause I
Sorry,
want.
you wanna go over here, yes.
Yeah, I want,
Okay.
this, you know. All
Fred's
right.
like, I'm ready to go.
No, I wanna be able to turn the meeting over to you so you can finish whatever it is, and,
Mhm.
you know, listen, I gotta shoot myself something too, so. All right.
Okay.
Last item I have, and then after that, I turn back to the chairs in terms of what we want to set up. So, district housing profile. So one of the things that I definitely want us to start working on is to start synthesizing some of the information we know about the district. Because that's gonna be helpful in terms of setting policy and what our asks are.
Yeah.
Especially when we're doing things. So we should know in terms of what the demographics are, how many people of color, what are the salary ranges, how much are they making? What are the real AMI bands for the district? What are the family sizes? I was looking at one of these developments, and it's like, a couple of these developments, and it's like, it's all studios, one bedroom apartments.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, so you're saying that there's no such thing as a family who might wanna stay in the district.
Yeah.
The housing prices, it might be good for us to understand what the median prices are currently. You know, what are the prices of housing, because I think it's important for us to understand too, because there's a lot of people who get stuck in rentals because there's no way they can afford housing.
Right.
So we should be able to say, listen, if you're building housing, you've gotta account for the fact that you have a lot more families. They're not gonna have $2 million to buy a house, but you know what? If they got two girls and a boy,
Mm-hmm,
you know, yeah, they probably need more than, they need 3 bedrooms.
right.
But I've noticed with some of these, affordable housing lotteries, they claim the one-bedroom apartments to hold 3 people. Because on the income bracket, it's not just one person alone that could be in the unit, it could go up to 3, sometimes 4 people.
In a 1-bedroom apartment?
Yes, if you apply for the housing lottery, you'll see that there's brackets a lot of times for one-bedroom apartments, and you're allowed to have 3 people in that unit. So when they say for the Vital Brooklyn development, they might be trying to put 3 people in a 1-bedroom technically.
Okay. But you know what, but those are the kinds of questions we should, and absolutely.
Well,
those are
as you
things
can
we should
see,
know.
I applied for the housing lottery, so I guess I know that.
No,
Yeah.
and those are exactly the kinds of things, and then from a policy standpoint, is that what is that what we want?
Mm-hmm.
Cause do you wanna cram 4 people into an apartment or 1 bedroom, or?
Well, it's cheaper, that's just it,
Listen, that's how people have had to do it.
right.
That's the only way you do it, and especially it's like, you know what, you can cram 3 into 1, because we can't afford 2.
Right.
Because we can't afford 2, is like some of the numbers that they talk about, so it's good for us to have these conversations and talk about what do we need?
Right.
You know, this has always been, I've always been happy to say this is a family district, and you see people.
That's so crazy, like I saw this, but my brain never connected that.
Yeah.
Which is
Thank
great
you.
that you said that, because it's something that
I'm
I always
thinking of
noticed.
myself when they try to put me in a studio apartment, I'm like, so what, taking a 1-bedroom?
Because they're
Just-
probably, because they're
Yeah,
probably
cause I look,
saving them.
yeah, cause for one person, the income, I'm like, okay, I make less than that, so I'd have to have 3 people in there, but it's just me, and, yeah,
But how does this differ, sorry, now I'm going on a tangent, but because we know with section 8 that it's very stringent on how many people that you use in your application, so I'm guessing for this you have to apply, and maybe the extra people they're considering as dependents versus independents, like roommate situation.
As long as the income is in the bracket, that's from my understanding. As long as you're within the income, if those 2 or 3 people are in that income bracket, you're good to go. So if you have 2 people who are working and their salary are in there, and the 3rd person is a dependent, as long as you meet the income bracket, that's what's gonna matter.
So they'll let you apply with more than one essential income? Like
Yeah.
more than one independent person, that's not a family unit?
Wait.
Like, I'm talking about, like-
sample, here's one up.
Yeah, I'm looking at one right now too.
Okay.
It's like, I'm
You
looking
can
at one
have
now
2
too.
working adults in a 1-bedroom, as long as their income ranges are.
But is this dependent on if they're married or in a
No,
relationship?
married.
It's just,
3 adults in a 1 bedroom?
That's
No.
what, that's what I'm,
It just
that's
says
what I'm
3
asking.
people, it didn't say adults, it just says like
3 people.
Okay, so alright,
that's
so
what I'm-
if you're a couple with a kid, you're in
Yes.
1 bedroom, okay.
That's what I'm saying, I was like, I
But
think
why would I
Single Beach might be.
why would I want my child in my room with me? And like, until what age? Like,
But I'm just saying, that's like when you're applying for apartments, you see that a lot, like the one bedroom goes, it could go up to 3 people or 4 people for that 1 bedroom unit.
Well, technically, if you were to consider this,
Got
like,
bunk beds in there?
but if you had the option between being in a shelter or getting a 1-bedroom house in a new development, alright, kids, we're gonna break out the whole, you know,
Yeah.
living room divider. But I mean, people are strapped. If you make under $30,000 a year, what options do you really have? Like, let's be real. What option?
But you know, but let me say this. But this is the reason why I'm happy we're having the conversation, because some of this is brand new to me. I wouldn't have
Yeah.
understood
No,
that.
thank you for that. It's something I
And,
did know.
and
make the connection.
And that's helpful
Same,
too, because when we're doing our recommendations, we can say, listen, so if you're talking about, if it's 3 or 4 people, and, you know, whatever else, you know, we can figure out what the breakdowns are, but at least we know what we're asking.
So the housing demographic that we're looking to, or housing profile we're looking to put together, are we okay with using like Data Explorer, like data, NYC data
Absolutely.
for these things? Okay.
Well, listen, NYC data,
The housing.
the housing stuff we sent from the census there's a bunch of stuff that's there,
Yeah.
and it's good for us to talk about it, see what makes sense and what doesn't make sense if they don't connect.
Yeah.
Utilizing resources like, neighborhood housing services, I think they said they're still gonna send some information for us, but wherever we can get the information from.
Yeah.
I think it would be good to see if they could provide an initial or preliminary breakdown of rental costs and how many people should be able to live in the unit.
For who to send?
From,
NHS?
Um,
For,
housing profile?
mhm.
okay,
Because that's really putting your fish to the fire if you wanna do that.
right.
That's a big commitment.
Jolie was saying, and that's the thing, I think some of that data was in like the first documents they had, so we can try and get that. We'll see if it's in there, and if it's not, we'll ask the
Hold on
question.
a second, I'm done.
Wait, what did I say?
That's why I just said.
I
I was waiting that everybody's talking and I'm like, wait, it's missing me, it's slipping
I was
out.
saying if we could get, a preliminary breakdown of what rental estimates and a breakdown of the amount of people that are allowed to live in the units. Cause are you putting 3 people in a 1 bedroom that have to make $50,000 a year for this 1 bedroom? That is really tiny.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, I wanna say somewhere in the document, for some reason, between 40 to 80% of AMI is a number that's in my head. I can't remember what it was for. If it was for the housing or if it was for the apartments, the supported living.
For Vital?
Yeah.
Okay. 40 to 80%?
40. You know, let me stop, because I don't wanna put things out there that may not be
But
true.
that's why I asked for the other document, because I wanna know what their low-income housing is, because we keep throwing that word around. We love throwing it around
Mhm.
without addressing what low income is. If that starts at 50% or higher, I'm gonna have a tizzy. I'm
Everyone
sorry.
is gonna have to tell you.
No, because they scammed us. They literally are essentially building middle income housing at like a
Well, we
large
asked for a
rate.
breakdown,
Yeah.
hold into it, you
Yeah.
know.
Okay, good stuff. One of the things that I'd love to also have on this housing profile would be, it's just something that we talked about at the Fortune Society event, was like what developers are coming and already working here. I think this gives us an idea of who is building what projects and the kind of way that they're going about their developments. This also creates a really great record for us to see how development is being approached, how it's being sustained, and what actors to look for in the future when people come. If we have people that are building in, one company or one developer building multiple units around, having a file or a system that allows us to kind of keep a record of these people that are coming through would be pretty dope. This might be very advantageous. Very
Long-term goal.
yeah, could be far-reaching, but I think it could be a cool idea to include, at least for both housing and Euler, just to have as a record for us when it comes to people coming by, and being able to also kind of like put these pieces together.
The developer database.
Developer database, perfect. Love that. Love it. Nice.
Okay. So that is all I have. And like I said, I just wanted to make sure it's just kind of catch-ups and recaps of the stuff that the committee has done. And I want to thank everybody for all the work that's happened so far. some conversations that we have coming up, especially with FEIS, once that gets done.
Yeah.
And, once we get that commitment, all the timeframes and everything, so we'll make sure that the committee gets that information so we can ask the questions and hold people accountable as we need to.
And we were trying to do that one together, right, with you, Lord Van Housing, if Empire does come.
Yeah, so you know what, that's the thing, that's the coordination piece that we're trying to get. I mean, at this point, I don't know if it's, I don't think it's gonna happen like in the same meeting date. It'll probably be something together, and it might be just more than that, it might just be the entire board.
Okay.
They come and address the
Like
board.
we just do like a separate meeting.
It could be a town hall, it might be a town hall kind of setting where
Is
it's
it big enough?
yeah.
Okay, okay.
All right, and at this point, I want to thank everybody for putting up and dealing with me. I turn the floor back over to the chairs.
Okay, thank you. How do you wanna start?
I always see what's going on there.
What
Okay.
do we start with? New business or?
Yeah, I mean, or if there's anything that you want to see for next month, what you want to see on the agenda for next month, any questions you have?
I feel like since we have like 2 months, we have 2 months that we could get maybe some like groundwork going. Maybe we kind of like do this as like a brainstorming of what we wanna see happen in the short time that we have left. And then that way we have like a direct idea of like business items in the next few meetings.
Yeah.
That way we kind of have like a general idea of like things that we feel like we could accomplish in a short time, and that way we can stay directed in that kind of like goal.
Or decide what our, contribution will be for the fair.
Oh,
Who do we have?
Are we doing a table? I don't want to say. I was gonna say we're due.
The fair is when?
June.
Good. June.
June 7 or 8.
June 7 or 8, just looking for, finalizing the date.
But even if it is in June, should we have something tabling regarding the moves?
By June it's after.
Yeah.
By June it's after, but for people to know going forward?
No.
Or do they, I'm not,
It's every few years, right?
It's every few years? Okay, so, but how will they get out of the situation after June? I mean, after the May 20th?
Well, along those lines, what I would offer is this. Dante has already done some outreach in terms of resources that are available.
Okay.
So it's like, Department of Finance will probably be tabling there. So there's people, to your point, if you have any problems with your water bills, taxes, or whatever else, they have advocates that'll be there. Same thing, we probably get somebody from housing to come talk about scree and dree, about, listen, if you wanna sign up, or if you know somebody, whatever else, and give the information right there on the spot. And a number of the other services that they have there, so.
Okay.
I can ask Dante to send like who he's invited so far,
Yeah, that would be nice.
so you'll have that, so you kind of figure out, oh, listen, you may wanna, as a committee, say, no, we're gonna have a table as well, or you may say, listen, we just wanna be able to point people to the different resources where they can do that.
Mhm. Okay.
But you have that option, you can do that.
I feel like a table would be I don't know, maybe too much, at least as of like now.
As of now, yeah, probably too much, but, yeah, just wanna know who's gonna be there that we could say to people, okay, the housing committee is continue in this direction of. Cause the tax lien thing may not it'll be after, cause it's scheduled for May 20th, but.
Can you offer like programs like SCREET, Section 8, different housing programs, as part of the
Is
agenda?
someone gonna be there from Housing Connect?
Right.
That maybe.
But these are connections that I feel like we just have not solidified yet.
Yeah.
To be able to advocate and bring people out. I mean, I know I've done brief mentions and talks with HPD and trying to build relations with the Rent Guideline Board, but I don't know if I'd be able to get people to come out that quick.
Well, here's the thing, just ask Dante, some of these connections Dante has already made, he might have even done the outreach.
Okay.
I just can't tell you which ones he's done.
So we need that first.
But yeah, I mean, I would even just say, even if it's just a quick list you develop in terms of these are the people we think we might wanna invite,
Okay.
you can give that to the officer and he can add them to the list. If he can confirm if he's invited them, or he can add them to the list and just send the invite, just say, listen, we're doing this, can you come through?
Okay, alright, okay. And, I know Suki had a table last year.
She did, absolutely.
They're gonna have one this year too?
I don't know.
You don't know?
I haven't
Okay.
heard.
So we don't know which board, like which committees on the board are gonna be tabled yet, no?
No, that's been a committee by committee level
Okay.
basis. So some want to say, no, we're gonna table and they have some things they wanna share. You have the option if you wanna do a table, or if you wanna put up a sign saying, listen, these are the different things that the committee covers and different things. Even if it's a matter of like, this is a housing committee and we have relationship with NHS and this agency, and this agency, and this
That's
agency.
how I thought, yes.
Okay. So I guess maybe we talk about it, see if we wanna, if we can get it together.
We wouldn't do a table with just that information, with just a sign saying, hey, this is what we do,
Yeah,
this is when we meet,
and these are some of the conversations we have, and and here's the thing, I think it's probably easier for you to ask for it now, and if you decide you don't wanna do it, I think it's, Dante doesn't put the table up for you, that's all.
Okay, that's not bad. Okay, sounds good. So, yes, have fun, have fun. Let us know what's going on with those deeds and tell them that it should stay public and not private. I don't know what we're doing.
I didn't hear the furniture move yet, so.
It's
I
been
saw people
quiet
get up.
tonight.
It is very quiet, it is
I
very
saw a
quiet.
few people stand up.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
wonder
really?
why Ethan left. I hope he's okay.
All right. Well, actually,
You're gonna jump over
let's,
to?
Yeah.
let's finish with one
Okay.
camera.
Ethan said it's okay, everything is okay over there, I can go. Exactly.
Okay, yeah, so I say, at least that's the direction I'm leaning towards. I'm a goal objective person. I don't know if that helps people, if we wanna go about it in like some of our loose goals and then kind of set up strategies to reach that. I think some of which could be the lean sale conversations and how to communicate that. We can send our little notices or suggestions to Dante and they can finalize. I would say the profile is something really important and worth considering or taking at least a good amount of time on. I feel like if we have something for the next 2 months and then use that moving forward to kind of reveal.
So, you're talking about the housing inventory? No, the
housing database, not the
The
housing, the
the-
housing
district
district housing profile,
profiles,
geez.
okay.
Yeah. Or do we have other things that we feel like we'd rather prioritize?
I'm sorry, they've talked about it, but maybe I'm not sure if it's appropriate here or if it's something we have the appetite for. I would love to see what the housing inventory is for the district. So how many units do we actually have here? So how many buildings, how many houses, how many vacant, how many, whatever else? Just even getting, because I know that one of the conversations that was had, we need more housing, more housing, more housing. I wanna make sure that we know what we're talking about when we say more housing and how much more should we have. Because especially when they build all
With
these
all the
buildings.
developments, there's housing, but who's moving in? I just don't know who's moving into
Right.
the.
But it's good to have that number. And here's the thing, I mean, it's one of those things, I know I have frustration where it's like, oh no, we're trying to address housing, so we're gonna approve more housing in the district. I'm like, I got 5 high rises within 5 blocks of each other.
Yeah.
So how much more housing do you need to put in my district?
I think over, at least in my part, like right here, from Empire to Eastern Parkway, is 636 projects, or units.
Oh, I thought you said projects with.
No, 636 units that were built. That was a part of the database that was sent out in that email. I was like looking at it. I think it was like 600 or 800. I'm mixing, my brain is not remembering. But around there, it's between that number, at least in that portion. The southern end was a lot smaller. I think it was like in the hundreds. That was new project, and only 1 or 2 were in demolition still. I think it would be worthwhile to kind of siphon out. I feel like the next meeting we should go digital. Like we should be on these databases, looking them up and piecing together some of this information. I don't know how people do.
Just bring in the laptops and
Yeah.
just.
We could.
Do it like that and transfer and have those kind of conversations. That way we can look at it and kind of piece things together about how we want to separate. But I think if we have like overarching like housing profile, developer database, housing inventory.
How would we find out who the developers are? Is it in that document or?
Well, it depends, like we can look up parcels, which is like a whole process, that's really extensive. I think it would be, depending on if we wanna start with the developments that have already been built, we can backtrack based on address and going through their projections or the information that they put. Is it, not preservation, not HPD, when they submit their project plans, who do they submit that to again?
It's not buildings?
Is it buildings? It's DOB?
I think it's
DOB, right? DOB going back that way, that's something that could be worthwhile. This was something that at least Mr. Metch at the Fortune Society has suggested, like getting a feel of who's coming and knowing the developers that are active kind of creates a nice idea of the kind of equity that's going into the district. So I think the profile and inventory, even inventory is a really hard one. Like I got the 2023 vacancy inventory list, haven't looked through it yet. But yeah, again, these things are a little outdated and take time
I
to
would
be
even say with the inventory, Suki might be a help, because I know she's pulled a lot of data on that.
on inventory.
Yeah, so she might be able to tell you what you have, what she
Okay.
has, and if there's any gaps or if there's any other angles you wanna look at, it might be.
One thing I wanted to know for inventory, not for inventory, for the developers.
Mhm.
People have been developing in this neighborhood for more than 15 years, so how far are you willing to go back?
I would say keep it within the last 5 to 10.
I don't know if 5 is enough because,
You think longer?
yes.
10? I think it depends on how extensive. I mean, if this is in the last, I don't know when these projects started that these units are now active. I'm gonna give them like maybe a 5 to 7 year timeline, right?
And I will also say some developers,
High.
not just hire, they probably had the land for years before they actually started building on, like they play games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this is why we know. This is why it's at least worth the inquiry and having an idea. And even if it means we have spots or places that are missing, saying that there's gaps in this knowledge or gaps in knowing who this is.
I think
Gives
we
a
need to
nice-
go pre-COVID, cause 2020 is COVID.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
So
we need to go back, that's too soon.
I see it. So 10 years?
It could be somewhere between 5 to 10. You can go in the middle, but I feel like 5 is,
Too soon. Not enough time.
Yeah, it's not enough time, because even if we look at where the associated was, just like it was one developer, and then at the end, they're like, oh yeah, we sold.
you sold before you
You
finished.
sold, you sold, you promised there would be a supermarket there, and then you sold it to another developer, like,
Yeah.
what happened there?
You know, so as you say that, 5 years, if we went back 5 years, brings us, that's 960 Franklin.
Yeah.
And I know that there's a lot of other stuff that happened before that.
Yeah.
That Crown and Carroll Street, I think predates that,
Okay.
so,
10.
yeah.
More
And
than
I
10
think,
is
yeah,
fine.
and we should be able to get the data relatively easy. I wanna say DOB, knock on wood,
I was gonna say.
goes back at least that far.
Okay.
They don't go that further?
It might, but the thing is what's electronic. You can probably get that easy where you can get a data dump and it'll give you all that information.
Yeah.
Further back might be a little bit more work.
At least to the 2000s. We could
Yeah.
probably get 20, 25 years going, but I think maybe starting off with 10 and then crawling back further is easier than being like, what? 2000?
I felt like if we just went at 5, you were leaving too much people off the table. Like, no.
Yeah. He said, bring them all in, bring them all in.
Yeah, you
You're
know.
like, bring in those.
I'm like, no, you left them over here.
Okay, so 10 years is totally dope. And if we want to expand that and go deeper, we totally
You
can.
might see a trend of, we've been doing this for a while.
That's the point.
Now,
That is the
are you
point.
looking for people who gotten variances or just people who just don't want to as of right developments?
All of it.
Okay.
I think we should do all of it, like,
No, sounds good to me.
yeah, at least that's
It'll be
fun.
a lot, but at least, once you have the information, we can just figure out how to use it.
How to piece it together. That's kind of how we did with the economic development, with like doing all the businesses and like, how do we wanna go about the business directory? Cause like first just getting everybody down, and then it was like, okay, now how do we essentially create categories that make sense and make it easier for people to go through and navigate, so. I think it's just about getting information, so I feel like the next meeting would be dope if we kind of started putting some of this information together, unless you guys are more interested in doing it independently, that's up to everybody.
If you want to do some pre-work before.
Pre-work before, come with information, maybe we do like an Excel spreadsheet start.
So you want, a search on developers,
Which one do we, let's start with one, and then we can go from there.
one specific developer?
Not one specific developer, one category. Do we wanna do the development, the district housing profile, the developer database, or housing inventory? Which one do we feel
Which
like?
one is needed, most urgently for
But if we look
development?
at the developers, then we can see how many places they have
It could be, not necessarily, I don't think it necessarily tells us vacancies.
Yeah, I mean, I kinda lean towards getting the housing profile, just
First.
because, just because it tells you what you're working with and what your needs and asks are gonna be.
Yeah, I feel like the profile would be a good start template. I feel like the inventory would be the second follow-up, and then the developer database would be the final.
That is the biggest.
Biggest, and then we can maybe like amalgamize these based on developments, right? So like, once we have the profile, once we have the inventory list, say we notice vacancies within certain projects, we can group that in based on developers and stuff too,
So we should start
with the profile.
So that's like, the amount of people living, incomes, housing needs.
Those are, so we should start getting out those, what are the things that we're looking at for a New York City data?
And some of that data we might have, but I mean, let's see if there's other places we need to look, let's see how we can build on that. But I think we, kinda got a little bit of the story.
I wish of course the one day we're taking all of these notes and I'm like dead on everything, like, who said everything's dead?
Pen and paper still works.
No, it absolutely does, just does it last? Am I gonna find it when I get
Yes, you
home?
Take a picture.
With all of the papers
I started
everywhere.
taking pictures of
That's
stuff.
smart, that's smart.
Well, if I was
Cause then you
there.
can search it too, and your message, or in your photos, it's genius. Cause there's nothing worse than having to search through a house like, where's the
You
paper?
gotta take your picture.
No. Especially here, we get so much paper from here. Why? Okay, so let's do our demographics for this. What do we have? What do we have? So let's go on NYC Data Explorer because they have some templates already, and then we can build on from that. You said race. Some things off the top. We have race, ethnicity,
Gender.
gender, age.
Family size, in particular,
Yeah, we're just brainstorming right now. Family size, what other demographics matter? Income, employment,
Are they homeowners or renters? Is
Yeah.
that important?
Yep.
yeah, that's a good one. What else do we got?
children. How many, what was that family size,
Family size.
specifically how many children, just specific,
How many dependents?
The age range
9.
that
Yeah.
determines the school, that
Mhm.
makes it.
And age. Car, if they have
That's very important.
reliable transportation.
Yep.
Where do they park?
Reliable
Street.
transportation.
Building parking.
Very rare. There's very few garages.
Rarely. Okay, what else do we got?
Schools close by if they have kids.
Is there something that tells you how much people get government assistance in the area?
Yeah,
Is that important for us?
probably would, yeah.
There is.
If you go with them,
I know we kind of, like, there's rent burden, they have rent burden statistics and severely rent burden, but not necessarily government assistance. At least that I've seen. I don't know what sites from.
you know what, I'll go on the ledge. I believe that data's out there, I'll see if I can find it. I believe the data's out there.
Someone has,
Yeah, cause I think HRA should have it, or I'm trying to remember what city agency administers that stuff.
I don't know the difference in the different rental programs.
Well, like, especially Section 8 voucher versus like Section 8 housing, I feel like the Section 8 voucher, are they still a thing that, right? They're not doing that anymore.
I know they had stopped for a
A
while.
long time,
A long time, yeah.
I don't know if they've brought that back around, but it's something that I hear often. The Section 8 voucher, I think, is actually better than just the regular Section 8 housing, but the Section 8 voucher essentially allows people to have some of their rent covered.
The voucher, the one you just said where you wanna live,
Yes.
and the landlord pays you.
Yes,
And the section,
8 is just like NYCHA.
oh,
Yeah.
Although I remember there were problems with that. I think they had stopped doing it because I think people were
At NYCHA or Section 8?
Section 8.
The voucher?
The voucher, yeah.
Well, because this comes into size, like family size. People were getting these vouchers to go into new buildings and then, bring in other people. This is a
Right.
problem, right? So, that's why I was surprised with the Housing Connect having more than one person for these, like, studio, because usually they're
No,
very
you can put 2 people.
It's crazy.
The people that are applying know all the rules.
No, that's so true. That's so true.
We know exactly why we're rejected.
No, literally.
How's it going?
Sorry about that.
I didn't.
What
Yes,
flyer?
Oh, they gave me something, one of these things,
Is that your face?
No.
No, that's not my
Okay,
face.
sorry.
Somebody thought it was my face at first, and they tried to look the man up.
You're like, that me.
That's not me.
I saw the email today.
Yeah, I saw the email
Oh, I
today, so I was
know
just
that.
like,
Can I see it?
yeah, you can actually have it. So,
Yeah? I just wanna look at.
but I didn't mean to interrupt you guys.
Oh, goodness.
You too.
Oh, thanks for getting back a lot with regards to the
Oh, yes, so I'm waiting for DOB to get back to me as well, and, DEC also just now reached back out to me, so I know they issued some summonses to them. I'm trying to get the state to do the same thing, so.
appreciate you.
Okay, all right, sir. No problem.
So, you have not gotten a date yet for people for this development to,
Not yet.
but we still need to have questions prepared to to email to them. and then-
Yes. So as you know, so once everyone will get a copy of the FEIS. If you have specific questions, I would say right now just send those to Dante. And when we get a date, we'll ask everybody to send questions about what that is, so that we can give it to them so they can come with the answers.
Okay.
Is this, so if it's a town hall, then we can submit public statements, right?
Mhm.
Lovely, lovely. Okay, so race, ethnicity, gender, age, family size, income, employment, homeowners or renters, dependents and age, reliable transportation, building, parking, schools nearby, government assistance, question mark, that one's question. We don't know if we can find that. Is there anything else that we feel like may be missing on our demographics?
I think you got a good list right there. I mean, if we think of something as you go along, that's fine.
True, we can always add to it.
Yeah.
But this is a pretty good start, and this is not hard. This would be pretty easy. Honestly, we probably have this portion done if I could.
Well,
Anybody?
it's finding the information.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah, it's just piecing it together. Are we only using NYC Data Explorer? Does anybody have any other places that they have like data just waiting for us to take advantage of?
Very new to me.
Okay.
Census data might be helpful.
Census, yeah.
How far back does the census go?
Wasn't it just, it was within the last 10 years?
Yeah, they've been releasing data sets.
What is the
But
other
I
one?
mean, like, they don't do it every year.
No, they don't, but I think they're still giving data from the last.
I thought this would help. Since you're not there, this is what is being discussed.
Oh, okay,
You know what I mean?
gotcha. Oh,
You said NYC data.
NYC Data Explorer, yeah.
Okay.
Census, I was just about to ask, is this the same, it's open data, NYC open data search? There's also, I don't know if that, this is really crippling me, I didn't realize how computer dependent I've become. Is the housing database also has stuff on there, but I don't quite remember the specifics, cause I think they go more into demographics, not just housing. They might have some
Okay.
demographics that we might
But listen, I mean,
put together.
wherever we find the sources, and it's okay because we can compare sources as well to see what they say. If they agree or they really disagree.
Yeah, true.
The census, it says it's every 10 years, but based on our housing development, we know 10 years, information is changing in 30 days.
Yeah.
So we're using that.
It could be,
2 million people ahead of that data.
Well, not that far, because the last one was 20. The data won't be, and this is, I think they do it
it's
at
not gonna
20.
be comprehensive.
The data will be off by a couple of years.
That's
So-
what it was, American Community
Yeah, yeah. The data won't be like spot on, it's like usually maybe a couple percentage points off.
Yeah.
But like unless like half of Brooklyn moved out, it kind of gives you a good sense.
Oh, no, I'm talking about all the new ones that keep moving in. We're not capturing.
We're
that
not
with the-
getting those.
With the census. And it was also COVID, and people weren't opening their doors, so when people were in their units, so.
Well, yeah, remember, it doesn't have to be spot on. If it gives you a close number, and remember, the thing is, I think it's
We don't know what the number is.
yeah,
We're using 5-year-old information.
true. I mean, but what's the methodology everybody else uses then?
Using 1999
No, for real though.
So, no, but but here's the thing. I think the good thing about it is, there's enough smart people at the table when you look at it, you're like, that's nonsense.
No, for sure.
You're like, that's nonsense.
Okay, so at least ACS has 2023. There's obviously gonna be,
The Child Protective Services?
no, American Community Survey. So what I can do tonight, I just need emails. I don't have anybody's email. So
I can share my email.
Yay, let me just write it down then. Okay, what's your email?
Not while you're,
Yeah, so let's do that.
I was gonna say, I'll just
oh,
write it.
okay, yeah, you can write it down,
Don't
okay.
say it out loud.
Okay,
For the
yeah,
whole-
like, please
Let's-
don't
let's-
say it out loud.
That was so smart.
Let's
Thank you.
let's do this.
Thank
Let's do
you.
this. Dante can send a quick email tomorrow saying, listen, if you would like to opt in,
Okay,
and they will share. Yeah, they will share everybody's emails who wants to opt in.
who wants to opt in?
Yeah.
Okay,
Well, this would work to be among us, right?
yeah.
For the committee, yeah.
Yeah, it's just for the committee. This is just me starting the Excel sheet that way I can start it tonight. I have a really busy week coming up. So that way I can start it, nobody has to add it. I'll put all of these on there and then I will create different templates or different columns.
And you just add, click and add.
Click and add, that way people can input as they go. You can add whatever's missing, how ambitious you are, how much you wanna fill out. If we see that there's things missing you wanna add, like by all means. And then this could be the template for us to go
I didn't
from.
actually add it because I thought we were doing
Okay.
it.
That's fine, just take it.
You're like, just get this out of my face. Okay, that's fine. I'll do that tonight, and you guys are free birds to do that whenever you have time. Obviously, no rushes, no pressure on that one. But that way we can get started, and then by the next meeting, we have like a pretty good idea. Something to get our little feet going, get our
Because
nails.
this is all new to me, so all the different acronyms for all agencies, that'll be,
Yeah.
Googling.
You know what? We should do like a little acronym sheet too.
Create a glossary or something.
A little glossary of
We could do that
things.
even for the fair,
That
cause
would be
people,
nice too. Yeah.
I like that idea.
don't
Yeah.
know what they don't know.
Yeah.
And I'm one of those who doesn't know.
You know, we can build on, Mr. Metch did provide an acronym sheet of,
That's right.
he did, so maybe we build on that, incorporate that into some of it. Depends on if you're like one of those people that like learns as you do those things, which I get
No,
sometimes.
I could learn, but,
If we have it, we're like,
information can be used no matter what.
absolutely. Should I add that, the acronym sheet to the Excel or just keep it separate?
Just put it as
A separate doc?
not a separate doc, but like a folder.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah,
a folder, a sheet,
a sheet.
an extra sheet.
Are we talking about like a Google Excel or that's how
Yeah.
we're gonna get access to it?
What do we have? Is everybody Microsoft?
No, I'm just wondering what you were thinking of using.
I was gonna do Google and I was
I'm
gonna
fine
do
with Google.
keeping it open public. Like, what are we meaning by,
No, I'm just wondering.
I would just share the Excel sheet with your emails.
Okay,
Yeah, that's it, on a
Okay.
Google sheet.
that's fine.
Do we use Google Sheets? Google Sheets? Bam, instead of Microsoft Excel sheets. We could do Excel, but
I don't even have Excel on my computer.
it's
I just.
Google is
I had
free.
to
I
do
use
it.
Google.
No, I paid for it because it was just like,
It was,
my brain.
yeah.
Okay.
I'm using it
So-
for free Google.
I'm fine with either
Free
or.
Google, I'm a free girly, I'm a free
Yeah,
girly.
my run club uses Google Sheets, so.
So, yeah, okay, perfect.
Good with that.
So Google Sheets, I'll start the Google Sheet for the demographics. Maybe I'll have the templates for the other three, and we can go from there. But I think the housing profile is a good start. Inventory next, and then finishing up with the developer database to see in case that one's like a larger mountain to climb and we're juggling that with stress. Other than that, does anybody have any closing thoughts or things that they'd like to see for the next meeting? Things that they feel like are really important?
I think we discussed a lot.
The timeline. Nice. Gateway.
So between now and the next meeting, the tax lien sale. Oh no, postcard, you said you'll speak with us.
Between now and then.
I don't have anything else.
Maybe we review the template for the postcard at the next meeting, see if Dante can have it
They
done
can
for
do
us.
it.
I'll try to see if we can get that before, just because of the time sensitivity. I'd rather get it out sooner rather than later. But what I'll do is I'll ask him if he could mock something up and send it to you,
Yeah.
so that we can look at it. And if there's any suggestions or whatever.
Are any of those printouts there related to that? Take a couple.
Those are, I don't see the
Tax
tax.
lien sale.
I should actually pick up flyers for the
Yeah.
business.
There is a flyer for the tax lien sale that they have
Oh.
there.
Okay, and it's probably in the.
It's
e-blast.
probably.
It's in the
e-blast,
e-blast.
Okay,
yeah.
so I'll check that out.
Print it out.
Although I just found out I'm not allowed to put them up in my neighborhood, in my building. I don't understand why.
They don't
They
like-
don't be in my building either.
No, I put up flyers for, what is it, the electrical chargers,
Yeah.
but my super says it's management, but it's not, I know it's him.
Yeah, I don't know if it's my super or if
It's my
it really
super.
is management.
Cause if you put out stuff for free, if he likes it, he takes it, if you don't like it, he drives away. It's my super. He just likes to see the place a
Supers.
certain way, so when he's gone,
Understood.
I put the flyers up, and when he comes, he takes it down, and when he's gone, I put it
Back
back up.
up.
You're like, you can't, you're gone for the weekend, so we're gonna have flyers while you're gone.
I love it, absolutely.
You wanna have 2 jobs, and we're, okay, when you're gone, I will put flyers up. And when you come back, he took it down, and I asked him, I said, did you do the survey? He's like, no. I said, do you know what that flyer is? He's like, no. I said, do you like electrical chargers? He said, no. I said, that flyer is so they don't put electrical chargers in front of your door. And he just looked at me and he was,
Of course. Oh, of
I said,
course.
did you read it? No.
Well, I say we keep at it, keep flyering.
Can we, I'm just thinking, go to the different, the churches.
Church would be a good
Someone
one.
can just make an announcement, the priest can make an announcement at the end of, I mean, is that church and state, is that something they don't wanna mix? I haven't been to
No.
church.
Well, listen, we probably don't announce for churches, but churches are usually good about announcing secrets.
I was gonna say, I could bring a flyer to my church.
I think
Forgot about
some
all
churches
this.
are really good about allowing you to put up stuff on your bulletin boards.
Some do it too. I never
You don't
thought
have to
about that.
go, but maybe if someone mentions that those things are on the bulletin boards, they normally have a space where there's a bunch of stuff up.
Well, I will definitely check in with First Baptist, I go to First Baptist in 100, so, and they talk about a lot of the stuff, so maybe they'll do like a little community announcement, cause they do that, so maybe it could be like this flyer. Let the people know, and there's a lot of old folks there, so it's hitting the right crowd.
Yeah.
Homeowners, cause us young folks can't have, me, I can't.
Unless you
Believe
It's
it,
the
I
middle.
didn't know we're still buying property, because with our incomes, it's not happening.
Only those that
It's
inherit.
not even the income, okay, I'm at the income where you would think
Could make it.
The
could
goal
make
post
it,
is gone.
but the goal post is gone.
It's not even
That's
moved,
it.
it's,
So what is
it's
it,
gone.
what is it that's preventing it for you, knowing that it's not the
I
income,
just have other family
that
things that,
just get in that process?
it's this, well, sandwich,
They call it the
sandwich-
sandwich generation, you
but
take
I mean,
your
there's
food
no,
and-
I don't have children, but
Mhm.
my 82-year-old, my 86-year-old are the ones that I'm trying to figure out
Okay,
right now,
okay,
so,
okay.
you know.
Too much time, you can't, it's not an endeavor that you can take on.
It's about down payments now, but
Okay.
it's not even, it's just so much.
Okay.
And it's like, where are you gonna live? Like, am I going to leave my cheap rent to
Yeah.
go try to buy $1 million home on my own?
Yeah, why would I?
Even
What-
$1 million home.
What about this is the first home buyer loan, whatever, I
That-
cannot
that
say that.
could work,
name, that program.
But you still need a little bit of a down payment.
Yeah, on top
And
of the loan that
On
they give
top
you.
of, and I'm not the type to buy something that I can't be like, I don't wanna spend any more time at work.
I feel you. You're like, I don't wanna, yeah, I get it, okay.
It makes no sense. Yeah, it makes no sense. Especially when I have an 86-year-old who does dumb stuff. That's why I didn't show up to that meeting on Monday. I wanted to go, but I was dressed, I was ready to go, but, sisters call me, Mom's trying to get you, she's taking Dad to emergency room, they're in the ambulance.
What?
Oh.
They got all the way?
Oh.
That's
Yeah,
a sign to go home
That's what
now.
we do.
Well, I'll tell you what, anything else for the agenda, just adjourn?
Yeah.
Adjourn.
Anything else?
Okay, no, okay, so,
22nd, 21st,
yep, 8:47, meeting is adjourned.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Charlie? Charlie?
Yeah,
I think we're done.
I think we're gonna have a pretty dope committee. Not even think I know. You got work, you got work.